Today, the world is full of misinformation. News stories on the surface may seem real, but under closer scrutiny are fake. Corruption and fraud are everywhere. There's a better political news and information website, BackstreetGossip.com, where you'll find the latest stories and information that's circling the media world. You'll see stories of the day and stories that will be discussed tomorrow. BackstreetGossip.com will provide you with informative content that any reader would be amazed to gossip about. BackstreetGossip.com, providing information from Earth and beyond.
The Culloden Law Group is famous for debt collection, but the attorneys there do a lot more. At Culloden, you're going to find attorneys who have built a solid reputation in the government relations sector, and can provide you with a wide variety of legal options and strategies. Their experience in negotiations and settlements can assure you of their confidence in settling your case. The attorneys at the Culloden Law Group can work autonomously or as a team to take your case where it has to go to get the job done. With a measured approach and high levels of integrity and professionalism, they will work with you to bring about a settlement that's optimal and are here to serve. Call the Culloden Law Group today and put that stress behind you. The Culloden Law Group can be reached at 602-730-8385. That's Culloden Law Group, at 602-730-8385. Thank you.
I'm Senator Sonny Borelli, and when I come to Phoenix, I always want to be informed, so I tune into Hub Radio Phoenix. You want to be informed? I suggest you do the same. Make sure you tune in.
Are you tired of the long lines and impersonal service you get at the post office? Well, we have a solution for you. Pac Mail is an all-in-one mail center conveniently located in the Fry's Shopping Center at 3218 East Bell Road, right here in Phoenix. Owned and operated by Arizona residents Mark and Vicky Battaglia, you can be sure of getting personalized professional service. They will pack, crate, freight, and ship your items anywhere in the world. They work with all the major carriers like DHL, UPS, USPS, and Federal Express. Need an address for your home business or startup company? They have P.O. boxes on site where you can receive and pick up your mail anytime, and their knowledgeable and courteous staff will find a way to ship that awkward or heavy item. You can even have your packages picked up and delivered for a small fee. Their motto is, if you can imagine it, we can ship it. Drop in on the good folks at Pac Mail and let them do the work for you. Pac Mail can be reached at 602-971-2300 or email at info@weshipphoenix.com. That's Pac Mail, 602-971-2300 or info@weshipphoenix.com.
Fighting Back. Current events, news talk, and political commentary. Now here's your host, Ron Lutter.
Thank you for the applause. You're going to have to cut it short tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please stop applauding. Thank you. We've got a lot to talk about, and so we don't want you to applaud at everything we say. We appreciate it, but please let us get the show moving because there's so much going on. This is Fighting Back on Hub Radio, and we have a lot to talk about tonight because there's so much going on in the nation and in the world and locally as well. And so what we have to do right now is I have to tell you my good buddy here has been moved to the other side. He's been promoted, and that's
More
Ray Michaels.
Chairs, huh?
Hello, everyone. You know, I feel out of sorts here. I'm used to seeing you to my left and not my right.
I know he's moved to the left. That's
we
unusual.
keep moving back and forth.
And then we have our original bald-headed badass, as he calls himself.
America's favorite bald badass.
Yeah, America's favorite. And that's Josh Bernstein. Welcome to the show, Josh. And tonight we have a lovely blonde lady here, and that's Marnie Thompson. And believe it or not, she graduated from Berkeley. The last conservative, besides, there's one other one that got out of there. You know who that is? Greg Gutfeld.
Also, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers went there?
Yes, he was a quarterback there for 3 years.
And he has to be a good one because he's right-handed, right? He's got to be a conservative.
He's really conservative.
So tonight
he wants to run Jeopardy, I think, instead of the Packers. But
I know a lot of controversy going on right now, but we got a lot of things going on, and some things here that's. I don't know if it's breaking news, but a lot of you probably don't know this. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bernstein to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Well, it's interesting that for many, many months, we were never allowed to speak the name of the killer of Ashley Babbitt. And it turns out now that we can do that because, unfortunately, he's been exonerated by an illegitimate government. But he's actually going to speak to everybody now. He's coming out, and he's going to be speaking on Thursday night on Lester Holt on NBC.
On what?
On Lester Holt's program.
Don't swear on this show. This is a family show.
So, I want to know if he's going to ask the right questions. My guess is that Lester Holt is going to somehow make him to be the victim instead of the true victim, which was the one that was executed by Michael Leroy Byrd, and that is Ashley Babbitt. Are we going to see some fake crocodile tears, perhaps? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But this is what a real journalist, an investigative journalist, does. He comes up with real questions that need to be asked and answered. Number one, why did you leave a loaded handgun in a Capitol restroom back in 2019 and not get disciplined for it? Number two, why did you break every single solitary rule of gun safety and protocol on January 6th when you discharged your weapon in a manner in which you should have never done and shot somebody that was unarmed? That would be the other question. Number three, why did you shoot an unarmed woman in the neck through a broken window in through the glass door, and then someone that posed zero threat to you and was not armed? Okay? These are just some of the questions that need to be asked and answered. Number four, why is it that when a law enforcement officer shoots somebody, whether they're armed or disarmed, in the United States of America, and whether that officer is black or white, but especially white, their name is released to the press almost immediately? However, your name somehow has not been released for well over 6 months. Do you feel as though there's some type of privilege there? Number five, why was there a concerted effort to hide your identity for all of these months after you shot and killed Ashley Babbitt? Number six, do you think because you are a black law enforcement officer who shot and killed a white unarmed woman that it didn't fit the media's persona and agenda of being a victim? So in other words, a white person who's shot by someone who's black, well, obviously that can't be seen as a victim in today's 2021 media.
Doesn't make the news.
Right, exactly. It doesn't even make the news. Number seven, your lawyer, who you hired on Joe Biden's personal recommendation, Mark Shamel, who is a partner at Lowenstein and Sandler, gave $75,000 to the Biden campaign. Do you feel that that is a conflict of interest or yet another quid pro Joe? Through a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, from Judicial Watch, it was recently announced that they received 1,160 pages of documents from the Washington, D.C.'s Chief Medical Examiner's Office. And in it, we have now found out that there was an immediate request to cremate Ashley Babbitt's body no less than 48 hours after you shot her. Additionally, why were Ashley Babbitt's fingerprints emailed to a Biden administration official that so far has remained unnamed? What was the big rush to cremate Ashley Babbitt's body? What was the DC medical examiner trying to hide? And why were her fingerprints emailed to a Biden government official, and to whom? Number 9, why now, after your sham investigation led to your false exoneration, have you decided to identify yourself and come out and speak publicly? And do you have any plans to make any money on any future book deals, exclusive interviews, or perhaps any speaking engagements on behalf of what happened and when you shot Ashley Babbitt? And number 10, and lastly, have you had the common courtesy and at least decency to reach out to any member of Ashley Babbitt's family and at least apologize for murdering Ashley Babbitt? These are the questions that Lester Holt needs to ask on Thursday night, but I have a feeling he might not.
You know, I remember seeing that situation, and I saw it from a camera angle that was behind Ashley Babbitt, and it would appear that there were a lot of people in that hallway, including 2 officers that were standing directly behind her. So she was no threat, certainly, but to indiscriminately shoot into a crowd, I mean, even a child is taught not to even play with his little Nerf ball guns and that and aim them at anybody. This is appalling, especially now that we've seen. I'm not sure who made the decision that this man should not be charged, but
I think it's pretty simple. Biden takes over the Department of Injustice. He puts in Merrick Garland, and Merrick Garland is obviously a lackey for him. And they decided at that point to cover this whole thing up. And then Biden even personally recommended the attorney and law firm to represent Michael Leroy Byrd, because that attorney and that law firm gave him $75,000 to his campaign. So yet another quid pro Joe.
The other thing that is troubling, we've seen cities burn when a police officer has shot a black person. And I don't want to get racial here because this isn't a racial issue. Mm-hmm. But it is rather strange that when this man was identified, he was shuffled away and kept sequestered so nobody knew who he was or whether he... And the race shouldn't have mattered. He did the wrong thing. White or black, he should not have...
Exactly.
And he should be punished for what he did.
He should be, and now, unfortunately, because he's been falsely exonerated, the family, the only recourse they have at this point is through civil litigation, and yes, that is ongoing. And one other thing that I want to touch on is folks need to go to givesendgo.com/justice for FOR Ashley. So it's givesendgo.com/Justice for Ashley. That is a fund that has been set up by her attorneys in which you can donate to make sure that that her life means something to millions of people, will never be forgotten. And also, if you really want to upset the leftist liberals out there, go to AmericanPatriotsApparel.com, go down to the Josh Bernstein Uncensored collection, and go ahead and get yourself a Who Shot Ashley Babbitt t-shirt that we are selling that has Michael Leroy Byrd on it, or my newest one, January 6th was an inside job.
Wow. So Josh, from JoshBernsteinUncensored.com, and check that out as well. So, I mean, people who like to carry firearms, right? You need to go through training, right? Mm-hmm. You need to understand it. Now, to discharge a weapon at somebody, you have to show that there's imminent threat to you. But it doesn't seem like she was an imminent threat to him. And Ron, to your point, there's a lot of people there. I mean, he would have had to been an excellent shot,
which he was not,
to randomly hit somebody in the neck. I mean, these things aren't making any sense. And when you talk about the FBI doing a full investigation, some of these things should have come up, because this is common knowledge for people who like to use weapons. I mean, unless there was an imminent threat, I mean, if somebody comes into your house and you defend yourself, mm-hmm. and they were just standing there and they kicked down the door, you're going to be arrested right away. You're going to be taken down, and they're going to do some investigation. You have to show that you felt in fear for your life to have self-defense.
Well, that's what he's going to do to Lester Holt. He's going to sit there and lie. I'm sure they're going to be coaching him on how to squeeze out some crocodile tears. And they're going to try to change the narrative. And they're going to try to make him the victim rather than the person who has lost their life, which again is Ashley Babbitt,
Okay,
a
so-
14-year veteran.
So
in the
preface this whole thing. All right, give us where she came in, who she was surrounded by, where he was when the gun came out and was discharged.
Well, he was obviously behind the door.
so he
and
was behind a door. Now
He was behind a door.
Are we talking like he came around and
Well,
got
no,
in front of the door?
It's amazing actually that he didn't shoot somebody directly in front of him, because he wasn't holding the gun like you should. He was holding it down like a thug, like a gangster,
Like a kill
basically.
shot.
Yes, exactly. And obviously, when he drew his weapon and shot through the broken glass in the door, he was just shooting. He didn't know who he was going to hit. And there was nobody on the other side of that door that either A, deserved to be shot and killed, number one, but number two, was an imminent threat. Nobody was armed. Nobody was coming after anybody. So he just indiscriminately shot.
So he could
and
have
killed
gotten
her.
he could have gotten one of the officers.
He could have shot,
Yes,
I would
there
assume,
were
just
two
about
officers
anybody.
right behind her.
That's correct.
And she was
His gun could have gone off, and he could have shot one of the other Capitol Police officers that were in front of him, or a member of Congress.
Now this is the same one that you mentioned earlier that left a loaded
Left
handgun.
a loaded handgun.
Okay,
in
give
the
us a
Capitol
little bit
restroom.
more. Give us a little bit more detail on that, so that our audience can understand that this is just not a one of.
No,
this has
no.
happened before.
In 2019, this exact same Capitol Police officer was in the Capitol restroom, and he had his gun out, and I'm assuming he put his gun down to use the restroom, whatever, but he was careless enough to have left it there. And then the gun was found by another person and was reported. Well, obviously the guns are given, to these officers, so it's very easy to track whose gun it was. And when that happened, he wasn't disciplined. There was really barely any investigation at all. And, it was like, okay, no big deal. You made a mistake, and that was the end of it. Meanwhile, what if I don't know if it's even possible if a child could have walked into the bathroom. Maybe they were doing a tour. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But somebody could have walked in and said, oh, look, boom. And the gun could have gone off and could have shot somebody. So, and this happened in 2019. And we know it's the same person because the attorneys for Ashley Babbitt were on Tucker Carlson many months ago. And instead of giving the name, they said, is this the same person that left the gun in 2019? To which the attorney said, yes, it is.
Ron, the great responsibility when you want to carry a firearm. It's great response, and no matter where it is, if you set it down, you are still responsible for it. But you would never, if you're going to be washing your hands, you want to have it on your person.
Yeah.
You don't want to set it down. Anybody
Right.
can grab it. Anybody. It's not
excuse.
making any sense.
There's and this, I don't want to go into all of the things here because there's regular classes, as you know, and everybody, I would encourage everybody to take a class
Yeah,
on how to handle
absolutely.
a firearm because, nobody ever wants to use these things, but if you have to, you want to make sure that you're the one that comes out
Yeah, of course.
with
Ahead.
unscathed and without 30 years
Well, the
in
best
jail
gun-
for misuse
The
of
best gunfight is where nobody fires a shot.
Right.
That is the best gunfight.
So one of the things, it's even against the law to brandish a firearm. Now,
Oh,
what does
yeah.
brandish means? Means I take that out
Threat.
and I could lay it on the table and say, gentlemen, let's talk. And that's right there. I'm the one that controls that, and I control the discussion, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Josh, who did the investigation?
Apparently, the Capitol Police, the head of the Capitol
Investigated
Police,
their own
yeah,
officers.
exactly.
That's,
Kind of like Eric Holder in investigating Fast and Furious when he was part of it. The same thing. So it was a bogus investigation. Obviously, they didn't even do any investigation into Ashley Babbitt's murder because if they really did a true investigation, they would have found this officer to have been at fault at a very minimum, manslaughter, or unnecessary. What's the word? Not unnecessary, but what do they call that?
Involuntary.
Involuntary. Yeah. I mean, at the very minimum, I think he's a cold stone killer myself. But they didn't do anything. They didn't do any investigation.
Have they reprimanded him at all
No.
for pulling out and discharging a firearm into a crowd?
They have not.
Because that is, Marnie, you know this. I mean, that is.
They have
Completely-
not.
He was completely cleared. of all
Complete-
charges.
Wow.
Once again, this woman posed no threat. There were police officers behind her,
And she was unarmed.
and she was unarmed, and there were police. You need to speak directly into that, please. And there were police officers there, and she was unarmed. I mean, they could have stopped her. I mean, the big guys, you know, they weren't.
Well, hey,
little
when the
fellas.
Capitol Police were waving people in, come on in, guys, come on in, and the fact that the FBI was completely part of this entire thing, which is why I'm selling shirts that say January 6th was an inside job. Let's not forget Antifa and BLM and all the agitators that were part of this as well. This was not peaceful patriots causing havoc and problems, okay? This was FBI informants. This was the Capitol Police. This was Antifa. This was BLM.
Well, Marnie, I know you weren't there, but of course we all kind of watched in horror of what was going on there. What started out as a peaceful demonstration with, I might add, the President of the United States at that time, Donald Trump, said to exercise your First Amendment
And
rights, which
peacefully.
are peacefully
He
go.
used the word peacefully.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
And so tell us what that means to the general public that's watching. What peacefully demonstrate to the Congress your grievances.
That you are allowed to go and demonstrate with signs and you can call out, you can say things, you can say, what you feel. That's a peaceful demonstration. And later to have found out that actually, as you mentioned, the Capitol Police were bringing people inside the building, and those pictures later showed that Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and Black Watch, those people who had been arrested previously and had records, were part of that group. So it wasn't just a peaceful, the whole group wasn't pro-Trump, and it was...
It appears, from what I've read this past week, that most everybody was exonerated. There was no plan, at least on the part of the Trump people that were there for the rally.
Right.
There
That's
was
right.
absolutely no
The
plan.
FBI actually just admitted this week
Yes,
that there was no right-wing conspiracy to cause any type of violence. They've already admitted that.
Yep.
So if it's not on the right, process of elimination tells us it's on the left.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
And you know what's so worrisome is that Nancy Pelosi, who is the Speaker of the House, and she is in charge of the Capitol Police, that she wants to put satellite offices now in the states with these Capitol Police. Now, if they're going to be investigating themselves, this seems like it would be a free-for-all, doesn't it?
Yes, and it's the Capitol Police, not each individual state.
Right.
It's not a state police.
First of all, they have
Right.
no jurisdiction in any
Zero.
state.
Every
Other
single
than the
dictator
District
in
of
history
Columbia.
has had a personal security police regime, basically. You look at Pol Pot, you look at Idi Amin, you look at the Nazis, you look at the Bolsheviks. I mean, all of them have had their own secret police, okay? And if you were to be a dictator in the United States of America, who would you use? Would you use the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Homeland Security? No, you would use the Capitol Police. Why? Well, number one, because they're not anyone that has to deal with FOIA requests. So in other words, they can't be put up for a FOIA request. They don't need to be micromanaged, if you will, through investigations and Inspector General reports. And so they are the perfect branch, if you will. They're controlled by Congress. They're the perfect branch to become the new secret police. People need to understand that. I don't believe in defunding any police departments in the United States of America, but I believe in defunding the Capitol Police, especially if they're going to go outside of the Capitol to other states.
And let's ask the question: who controls the Capitol Police?
Congress.
The Speaker of the House.
The Speaker of the House,
Yeah.
who
Who
is
is, so honest, right?
Yep.
Nancy
And they
Pelosi.
serve
She
her.
never lies.
Pelosi.
Yes.
They serve her.
Yeah.
So
we-
Nancy, when are you going to release the 14,000 hours of tape from January 6th, huh? That's what I want to know.
Now, would you encourage the governors in all the states to just say, no, we're not going to allow you to come into our state and set
Absolute.
up? Yeah,
Yeah,
set
I
up
don't
house?
understand
Yes.
why the Republicans aren't passing legislation banning the Capitol Police from being anywhere
Yeah.
outside the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C.
That's
Hello,
all they do.
where
yeah.
are you?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's all they do.
This is a travesty. I want to talk about the next travesty. we have a president that is mentally deficient, and he is in charge of the United States military withdrawal out of
Talibanistan.
Talibanistan. The
Talibanistan,
Taliban
we're calling it.
in Afghanistan, short Talibanistan.
Well,
Thank
that's
you.
what it is now. I mean, they run the country, so why not give it its real name?
You know, Ray, I just never cease to marvel at Mr. Bernstein's ability to come up with keywords. I like that. The
Yeah. It's
common
Talibanistan.
sense, I mean.
Any rate, we've seen this happen. We've seen people that are murdered. We've seen people that are crying. We've seen babies that have been stamped on and killed in some of these riots that are going on. And I've seen people from other countries. This one of them that we saw the other night. I think we talked about it Monday, Ray, and that is the British.
Yeah.
The British just are the most critical people. They call this man. They call Obama, or not Obama. I think that's where
Same
a
thing.
lot of this is coming from, because he wanted to fundamentally change the United States, and this is still a part of that process. But I see where we have this thing where this guy says, hey, he's the head of the military, isn't he? Court-martial him.
Unfortunately, you can't court-martial him
No.
because he's not a member of the military.
Not a sworn
He's
officer
a
in the military.
commander and false chief over the military. And so because of that, he's not a member of the military, so you can't court-martial him. You also, unfortunately, and I'll say that, you cannot bring him in front of the ICC, the International Criminal Court, because the United States has not ratified that, nor do they recognize the ICC, for obviously good reasons, because these foreign countries would be bringing American presidents up, for having a hangnail. I mean, let's face it. So the only remedy is, an impeachment.
Now, I'm curious about this. So there was a lot of NATO presence there, right? But yet NATO really didn't know what Biden was doing. And it reminded me of what my dad used to say. There's three types of people. There are ones that make things happen, ones that watch things happen, and ones that say,
What happened? I beat you to it.
yes. And isn't that he's
true.
almost like, I don't know what happened, but if NATO wasn't involved in this decision, where were they? Why are all these countries saying, what the heck happened? Was it only Joe Biden who decided this is what we're going to do, and he didn't tell anybody? Is that a possibility?
That's correct.
It's a possibility, but I would find that hard to believe with your Secretary of State, Blinken, and some of these other folks.
Well,
at
it was
State
strictly the
Department.
United States without commiserating with the others. And
But
ladies
they
and gentlemen,
knew nothing about it.
But they should have been intelligent
that's
enough
right, but
to
I
step
wanna-
up.
I wanna
Like
make
Lloyd
this-
Austin, for instance. He should have been intelligent enough to step up and say, you know what? That's not a smart move. I'm putting my foot down. I'm not letting it happen.
Josh, I'm going to tell you something. Let's talk about Vietnam, and let's talk about, just for a moment, let's talk about the secretaries of defense, okay? We had one, McNamara,
Yes.
and we sent 53,000 Americans to their deaths. How many Vietnamese people died in that war? Destroyed Southeast Asia for many years to come with Agent Orange. And years later, I think it was in the 90s, they were interviewing McNamara about the Vietnam War. And he says, I was never in favor of that war. You're the Secretary of Defense, and you are so gutless that if you disagree with something, you don't step away from it and say, I'll have no part of this. I don't believe it.
Right, exactly.
You still took the money, and you still sent all those Americans to their death and all of those Vietnamese to their death. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this one more time. I say it every week, and I get my blood pressure's going up right now just talking about it. This is our country. Defend it, guys. The enemy are us. This is an old expression, Josh. The enemy are us. We better do something about this. We can no longer allow our elected officials to play games. And I know there's some discussion as to whether he was elected. Doesn't even matter. He's the one sitting in power. Start doing things. Start calling your representatives. Start calling your senators. I've talked to them this week, and I've told them they need to be the ones that bring the bad news to Biden to step down, or we will remove him from office either by the 25th Amendment or through impeachment.
Now, Josh, you were probably watching the news when Peter Doocy asked Jen Psaki that you're talking about jobs and all of this stuff, but right now there's a disaster in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Don't you feel that this is more important? She goes, no, I feel that more Americans are worried about jobs.
I don't think so. I think that even Democrats understand that you cannot pin this on Trump. I think that there are so many Democrats and independents that are absolutely disgusted by what has happened. And maybe they're not even saying too much of it. I mean, I've seen some pushback even on CNN and MSNBC, which is shocking to think.
Yeah.
But even they are pushing back against this fraudulent administration and the things that they're saying.
No, it's a
But
disaster.
it's an absolute, it's
Yeah.
1,000 times worse than what happened in Vietnam. 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
Listen, our music's playing, and that tells us that we've got to take a little break here. But coming up, we're going to talk to Marnie Thompson, and she's going to tell us a lot about what's going on in the wide world of politics. And so don't you go away. We'll be right back.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
Are you tired of the long lines and impersonal service you get at the post office? Well, we have a solution for you. Pack Mail is an all-in-one mail center conveniently located in the Fry Shopping Center at 3218 East Bell Road, right here in Phoenix. Owned and operated by Arizona residents Mark and Vicky Battaglia, you can be sure of getting personalized professional service. They will pack, crate, freight, and ship your items anywhere in the world. They work with all the major carriers like DHL, UPS, USPS, and Federal Express. Need an address for your home business or startup company? They have P.O. boxes on site where you can receive and pick up your mail anytime, and their knowledgeable and courteous staff will find a way to ship that awkward or heavy item. You can even have your packages picked up and delivered for a small fee. Their motto is, if you can imagine it, we can ship it. Drop in on the good folks at Pack Mail and let them do the work for you. Pack Mail can be reached at 602-971-2300 or email at info@weshipphoenix.com. That's Pack Mail, 602-971-2300 or info@weshipphoenix.com.
Hello, Arizona. This is State Senate candidate Anthony Kern, District 20. And when I'm out fighting the woke culture in Arizona, I like to listen to the truth. I like to listen to the real scoop. And therefore, I listen to Hub Radio Phoenix, and you should too.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas, and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our two-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
Welcome to Fighting Back, news talk, current events, and political commentary. Now here's your host of Fighting Back, Ron Lutters.
Thank you very much. My mom would be proud of me.
She is proud of you.
She is. I told her to be proud
You
of
said she would be, but she
would
is.
be, but she isn't.
Yeah.
She would be. At any rate, welcome back to the show. We're here with Ray Michaels, and we're also here with Mr. Bernstein. You've heard a lot from him lately.
Josh Bernstein, Uncensored.com.
Thank you
right.
for the advice. That's an unpaid
I love it. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it.
At any rate, we have the lovely Marnie Thompson, and Marnie is he's got For a woman of her young age, she is the national director of the Arizona Republican Assembly. And you want to tell us, first of all, what that is? I mean, that's kind of a highfalutin job, national director, my
Well,
gosh.
all that means is that I represent Arizona. We say ASRA, Arizona Republican Assemblies, on the national board, which is the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. So many of you know already that the National Federation was founded in California in 1936. California, believe it or not. And,
Of all
and
places.
it grew and grew, and it grew in the western states. And only in 1996 did they become national and join all together as a federation. So the National Convention, which is held every 2 years, is being held here in Scottsdale, October
right.
8th, 9th, and 10th this year, this October. And we're working very hard to invite, to host everybody from all over the nation.
Can Hub Radio be there?
Yes, Hub Radio could be there.
All right, Ray.
Right,
Straight
that's
talk.
exciting. Yeah.
So, yes, it's a national federation, but each state, runs their own thing. And I've been working in ASRA for a long time, long before I had an office.
So how does the federation differ from the party?
Okay, good question. The Republican Party is the Republican Party. It's all comers who say they're Republican. The Federation is a group of conservatives. You can't just join and say, okay, I want to pay my dues. You have to be vetted, and you have to
I mean,
answer
Jeff
a
Flake could
questionnaire.
not be a member.
Paul Boyer. So,
Absolutely.
Lawyer couldn't.
I can say I wouldn't approve him.
good.
Either one.
That's
But
what I wanna hear.
There's a sheet that you fill out, and are you for this? Are you for that? And someone sponsors you, and then you're approved by the state board. Not everybody can just become, but all conservatives, and not everybody has to be exactly the same, but it's conservatives, and we have conservative values, and our mission is that we ensure, or try to ensure at the primary level, that we get, first of all, non-swampy people, honest people who are conservatives.
That's a
And
good
may I
word,
say,
non-swampy.
well,
like it.
because the swamp is on the left and the right. We've had
for
experience
sure.
with that in Arizona.
we have.
Ooh. And so, I'm longtime Arizona. So, we try to make sure that conservatives get in at the primary level. That's really our job. And so, we don't endorse anyone till our state convention, which will be after the national. And there are going to be people speaking that are running at the primary level. There's, and they're not all, the established elected people. So it's exciting, it's fun, it's people who are conservative and have conservative values, and someone has to sponsor you in, and you're responsible for that person. So it's wonderful. I've loved ASRA, Arizona Republican Assemblies, and National for a long, long time, and I've worked for them long before I held an office.
Well, do they have a stone building, or is it an electronic
No,
facade?
there's not a stone building.
So they can get on it on the internet and find out?
Oh, yes. Both National Federation of Republican Assemblies and Arizona AZRA Republican Assemblies have a website. They each have a website, and you can go on, and we invite everyone who wants to attend to go on this year. The convention is not being held by a particular state. ASRA is not holding the convention. It's being held by National Federation of Republican Assemblies, but held in Scottsdale. It was going to be in Washington, D.C., but how did we know that it's booked way ahead? How did we know?
Didn't want to have it in a battle zone, did you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
The
So
DC
we
cesspool.
So the national board pulled it to Arizona, where we knew we could be safe.
So about how many members do you have in the state of Arizona? How many members nationally?
It's changing all the time. In Arizona, we have 3 chapters right now, but 3 more that are just forming right now to be credentialed, and they're at the point of electing their chapter officers and whatever. So probably by the convention, which is October 8th, 9th, and 10th, there will be 3 more chapters. So I don't want to say a number, but there's many. There'll be approximately 200 people, because it's our board meeting and our national convention where we do bylaws, where we elect national officers. So the presidents of each state not all 50 states have Republican assemblies, but those that do, on the national board are the state presidents and the national directors. And so it's a business meeting, but it's also come to Arizona in October.
Well, it's interesting. Just a minute, Ray. It's interesting if you want to join, you go and you look it up on the internet and you say,
Yes.
gee, I'd sure like to be there. But you have to be sponsored. How does somebody get sponsored if they don't know anybody?
Well, no, you can go, like, just tell me, just call me. Everyone can have my phone number.
Hey,
will make
Marnie.
Sure, yeah, I will make sure everyone has the forms and fill it out. And there's a form on the back. There's questions to answer. And if you don't know anyone in Azra, I and other experienced people will call them and we'll talk to them and we'll vet them. And believe me, I'm from a family of 7 children. I can sort of tell when someone's telling the truth, and we sort of know who's who and what's what. So, and we'll say, what have you done? Who are you for? What do you believe? And then we,
Does Azra have any affiliation with like the national steering committees as far as the platform
Yeah.
for the Republican Party?
No,
No.
we don't. And we're not a 501c.
Okay.
I wanted to mention that. And we do electioneering. We do vet people. We do allow people to come and speak. And we welcome all, but we filter out.
Do you meet
It's a
locally?
conservative
Do you
group.
meet monthly here
Yes.
in the state?
Yes, each chapter meets monthly, and
How many chapters? You have 3 of them?
we have 3 now, but there are 3 more, East Valley, West Valley, and Payson, that are forming, and they're literally at the point where there's enough people and
Gotcha.
they're going to be electing their officers.
And are these open meetings that
Yes.
somebody can just sit in and attend?
Yes, you
Okay.
can come and attend, yes.
Now, one of the things that has bothered me a great deal with the Republican Party per se, and that is the lack of discipline. I mean, when we had people like John McCain that leads the party in Arizona, and we had people like Jeff Flake, just totally disastrous
Who
Republicans.
voted for those people?
Well, it certainly wasn't me.
Me either.
But
No,
let me ask, do you have that discipline that if you get somebody into an organization that is a gadfly, so to speak, can you get rid of them?
Absolutely.
The Republican Party doesn't seem to expel their people. Oh, they get these crazy little motions. Oh, well, let's
Censor
say
this
nasty,
person.
nasty, nasty.
Censor that person.
No,
Yeah.
your answer, Ron, is that we do kick them out, or
Good.
we try not to let them in the first place. And
Yes.
if we don't know who they are, then we wait, and they have to show who they are. But we'll welcome people in. But the minute, and we have had people that are, as you said, rhinos, and they're out. We don't censor them or say, oh, you better do this. No, it's not a good fit. They're not for the. And now, when we confirm, like we will say who we're for in the elections after our national convention, and Thayer Vashur is our new president for the state of Arizona.
He's a good
and
guy.
he wants people that we endorse. He wants them to have to sign a pledge, and you're going to be for this, 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 and this. And the
See,
minute
and
they,
Let me
Go
throw a
ahead,
quick
and then
punch in here,
I've got a
because Thayer Vashur was the guest last Thursday on the Jay Lawrence Show, Hub Radio's Jay Lawrence Show. So you can go back to our YouTube page and you can see that. And it's 1776 Productions, and you can look that up, and you can see Thayer Vashur. He's a dynamite guy. I've known him for a lot of years, and really a first-class
yes,
conservative.
Yeah.
and a termed out Arizona state senator. He
Yes, and he
only
was a
left
state
because he was
senator.
termed out.
Yeah. Well, you brought something up about pledges. And, we've heard this before, we've heard quote unquote conservatives saying, I don't sign pledges. Well, this kind of brings me to what I was asking you before. We need to have something that is based on the Republican Party platform. And you vote based on the platform. And if you deviate from that platform, whatever that platform may be, in other words, we're for this, and this, and we're against this, and this.
Yes.
And if your voting record falls under, let's say, 80% threshold of the platform that we all agreed upon as the party, then you immediately not only lose funding for re-election, but you have an automatic primary challenger to you. That's how you weed out rhinos.
Right. And
and that's why I was
and we
hoping
used to
for.
call them platform Republicans, and that's what I consider myself. And we've had people that have said, "I'm a platform Republican, and I believe in abortion." No, you're not a platform Republican.
Right, exactly. Or you believe in open borders or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
So Ray, you've run for office.
I have, yes.
During that time, were you aware of this organization?
I wasn't. I was asked to come in and kind of fill a space. So I ran as a write-in candidate for the primary. And they basically told me, they said, Ray, you know what? You really don't have a shot. Nobody knows who you are. And we just want to have somebody there to show that we're making an effort. And I said, no, if I'm gonna run and I'm gonna go through this exercise, I want to be on the general. So we ended up, I worked with Robin Cushman, wonderful woman. She's involved in a lot of things as well. Yes, she is. And so we were able to get double of the signatures that we needed. And so we campaigned really hard. And, Marnie, you had asked, did I win? I don't know. We're still finding out about the election, right?
The Arizona audit results are still out there.
Yeah. Anyway, there are so many people that when you sign up and they say, oh, this person's running, they try to come to you. And I remember I had a couple debates that were set up. Of course, my opponent didn't show, but they would ask me questions, and they said, we have a big slush fund, and there's the rainy day fund, and we have all this extra money. How do you, as an elected official, plan on spending this money? And I just looked at her. I said, I don't. She says, what do you mean? I said, well, when I'm in this position as an elected official, it's not my job to spend the taxpayers' money. It's my job to make it as easiest as possible for people to live the American dream. That's what I'm there for. I'm not trying to get in anybody's way, and it's not my money to spend.
Exactly.
So I don't. And it's funny, but you get a lot of people that just say, "Oh, come join us. Come join us." And we, as candidates, we have to vet the people that we want to be a part of as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and when you have an organization like yours that is strong conservative values, somebody like me, that is who I would lean towards. But to answer your question, Ron, no, we're not aware because there's so much out there, and there is a vetting process, and you have a very limited amount of time to do everything, raise money and run the campaign and get your signs and put them out and be at meetings and engagements and speeches, and it's very difficult.
When the Tea Party was a big thing in 2014 or so, I was actually the director of communications for a Tea Party organization. And what we would do is we would possibly endorse people that we thought would be good candidates, but they had to come on my show first, and I had to vet them through an interview process. And I would ask them tough questions, fair questions, but I would be able to weed out who the rhinos were as opposed to who the conservative reformers were. And we endorsed quite a few people nationally, including Ted Cruz, by the way. That was the only one that actually won. There was many others. Adam Quasman, I think, here in Arizona. Mm-hmm. We endorsed him. Jason Ravensburg out in South Dakota. We endorsed him. Not all these people won, but these were the more conservative candidates. And if we endorsed them, we gave them $100,000 towards their campaign.
Wow.
And we did advertising for them and all that other stuff. So we kind of need something like that here in Arizona and quite frankly in other states as well, so that we can weed out who the fakers are and the rhinos are and actually know who the good candidates would be.
We have that. It's called ASRA.
Yeah.
Arizona
So that's the
Republican
organization.
Assemblies.
So
Yes.
now Arthur Cooper was on, and he's a PC.
I've known him many years.
Yeah. So he's trying to form and work with the Arizona Republican Party as well to have the people, the actual people involved, choose who we want in the primaries. Instead of just having 20 people all running and everybody's kind of pointing, he wants to pre-vet them,
Right.
so that we can present the best two candidates for the primary, and they're not going to fight against each other. Somebody just has to choose which one it
I
is.
literally had a conversation with Sherry Butler 30 minutes before I came here,
Yeah.
talking about exactly what you just
Now,
said.
Ron, what is that called? What is that vetting process called when Arthur was on?
Oh, that's a caucus
A
type.
caucus, yeah.
Caucus
Well,
vetting.
So to actually have a caucus where if you have, for me, Josh, and you know this, Ron, you know this as well, I would be running for office to serve the public. I want to be
Right.
a public servant. If there is somebody else who's running who's better than me, I would yield to them and I'd say, look, you're a better candidate than me. You have a better shot at this. I'm going to go back and I'll pick out something else where I can serve.
But most
People
people,
are-
wouldn't do that.
They aren't like that, but a caucus would
Democrats
force
are
them.
like that, I might add.
What
Republicans
do,
are
what do you
not.
think about that? What's your idea on that?
Well, may I say that when Mr. Trump was running, and we,
And he
there's
had
this-
17 people in that race, I might add. Go ahead.
Yes, but and when he was running, AZGOP at that time, John McCain was alive, and Governor Ducey, and they couldn't stand Trump,
Right.
and so 3 women got together and I being one of them, Lori Urban.
I was
and
gonna
Liz
say, I
Elm.
know all 3
And
of them.
Anyway, we put in $200 each, went out to Mesa. A lovely man gave us not an office but buildings, and we just started working. We got the list from someone of all the 4x4 voters. I won't say who, but we just started calling, and our former treasurer Jeff DeWitt, who's a friend and who's a conservative, and
Another good guy.
he had said to me, I talked to Trump, and if he runs, I asked him if I could be the COO. So one day I received a phone call, and it was Jeff, and he said, how are you guys doing? And I said, well, we're out here in Mesa. We're not allowing ourselves to go anywhere near AZGOP, although they're calling me to say, won't you come? And I'd say, well, you're doing 4 hours a week for Trump, and 30 minutes of that is pizza. So, no, we're working out here. I'm out here in Mesa.
Right.
So anyway, Jeff,
Got good taste.
through Jeff, we became Trump Victory. And it was Thayer Verschure and Lori Urban and myself. And from there, we worked and worked. Then we got a call, could we handpick a group and go to Nevada? Because they had no one, no volunteers, no one. Heller was against Trump at that time until he got elected. And then, so we hand chose a group, and we went to Nevada. And the survey showed he had 0 points. So we just worked really, really, really hard, and they had it's a 2-pronged thing here, answer that I'm giving. They had previously had caucus, and it was a hellish experience for a lot of the people that we talked to. So the previous January, they had a vote in Nevada that they could go straight to vote. It's called straight to vote. You could either go straight to vote or you could be caucused. So everybody, we were calling and doing our due diligence and doing our work. Everybody hated the caucus. They hated it. They wanted to just make up their minds through listening and reading and going to events and listening to people debate. And they didn't want to be caucused. So on the election day, we were on the phone with New York Legal for Trump the whole time, because we said, call us. If they won't let you go straight to vote, which is the law in Nevada now, call us. So they called us by the thousands and said, this woman won't let me. So I would talk to the woman, say, could you give her your phone? And I'd thank her and be lovely to her and say, thank you for volunteering. But the law we have, I said, we have now in Nevada, they are allowed to go straight to vote. And that's what everybody wanted. Well, anyway, in the bottom, they hated the caucus. I'm just giving you that experience. But in the end, Sheriff Joe flew in for that night. When the results came in, we won by 25 percentage points.
Wow.
And Mr. Trump, when he went around to shake some of our hands after, and because Lori and I had brought the team, and so he said to me, Ms. Thompson, and I said, please call me Marnie. He said, Marnie. He said, how are we going to do in Arizona? Because our primary was after.
Right.
And so that's why we were free to go and spend a month there. So whatever. So he said, how are we going to do in Arizona? And I said, Mr. Trump, with the people that we brought here, and of course Sheriff Joe, we're going to do better than we did here tonight, and we'd won by 25 percentage points.
Wow.
Later, Lori socked me in the arm and said, why didn't you just say we're going to win? But we won in Arizona by 27 percentage points, so I kept my word. But I'm just saying, it's about, my one experience with caucus is that everyone hated it and they voted it out.
Now,
But
was that on a national level
No,
or
that
on a
was
statewide level?
That was statewide Nevada.
But I mean, for state offices or for
Oh,
national
no, for all
offices?
offices.
Oh, okay.
On the primary day, you would be caucused. But then they voted that out in January and said you could choose. You could be caucused or you could go straight to vote. And none of the poll workers wanted them to go straight to vote.
See, I can see on a national level where people are spending the millions of dollars and you have the exposure and you have the debates and you have all of that going on. But from a state level, as state representatives, state senators, you don't have that exposure. And the average person doesn't have that one-on-one with all of their constituents in their district.
You should be active within your LD, and every one of those candidates within that LD should have to appear, debate, talk to
Exactly.
the people. It's within your LD, and if you push and you demand, every single person
It should be a
show up
requirement.
or not run.
A requirement for
Yeah.
debates.
Well,
Yes.
you know, a lot of people who have that office and they're incumbent and it's name recognition, it's very difficult to fight against somebody who's been in for 40 years, and their school's named after them and everything else. You know, here in Arizona,
We have term limits here.
we do, but
Yeah.
what they do is they jump from, I'm a representative, they term out, they jump over to the Senate,
Senate.
they term out, they go back to the they're back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And I actually went
We need to get rid of that loophole.
well, I went to the Speaker of the House and we had breakfast with him,
Rusty?
Rusty Bowers, and I said, would you stand behind, once you term out from one side, there must be a 1 or 2 cycle where you have to step out. You could run for a state office, you can run for a county office, you can run for something else, corporation commission, whatever you want to do, but you can't go back and forth House, Senate, House, Senate. Would you
Right.
stand behind that? And he said, absolutely not.
I knew he'd say no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So when somebody goes back
He's
and
a
forth and
rhino.
back and forth and back and forth, a new person coming in really has a huge disadvantage because it's name recognition. They don't know if they're a senator or a rep. They just know the name.
Right, exactly.
Well, yeah, but that's what the LD active political thing is, that you get all the debates, you demand to see them.
Right.
Who's backing them? Where's the money coming from? What have they done in their past life? And who have they given to
Yeah.
in the past? That's what you
Yeah.
do. You do the
You know, these caucuses, I don't know, I think they're problematic myself. But David Kyle has agreed to be our correspondent from Utah. And Utah has the systems. So we'll have him on there on the phone one night. We might try to get you back because you might want to ask some questions as well. I've never been really fond of that process, but they have been able to get rid
It
of
seems
some.
like it's really wrought with fraud.
Well,
It
they've
is,
been
to
able
be
to
quite
get rid
honest.
of. They've been able
we
to get
saw
rid
what
of a couple
happened-
of rhinos in there, like Senator Bennett. They got rid of several years ago by that process.
Yeah, but if you remember, I mean, just on the presidential election, the Democrats with the craziness that went on in the Iowa
Yes.
caucus and how they didn't know
Oh, yeah.
for days and days and days who won and this
Oh.
and that. So it seems like
So
there's a lot
crooked.
of like.
Of course, we
hey, I'll
haven't known
scratch your
for.
back, you
We still
scratch
don't know who
mine.
won.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh, we do know who won.
Yeah, the
It's
guy.
proving
We're pretty
it.
sure we
The guy
know who
in
won.
5th place that couldn't speak. Yeah, him. That guy. Unreal.
Who was
there's a-
hiding
there's a
in
lot
a
of-
bunker
There's a
in the
lot of
basement?
change.
Who doesn't care about dead Americans?
We're almost.
Hey, that was
we're
5
almost-
days
We're
ago.
almost
What
out
are
of
you-
time,
what are
so
you talking
let's
about?
let's talk real quick about the Arizona audit. This thing, once again, we've got some glitches in it, and it was supposed to be delivered Monday, I guess, to the Senate.
COVID.
Right,
It's
right.
COVID.
And now all of a sudden it's
Everything's
not
COVID.
because COVID has slowed it down. I don't know what that means. I don't know if the mail had COVID, the mail service. But
Apparently, I've heard that Doug Logan and 2 people from Cyber Ninjas, I guess, have gotten COVID, and that's part of the delay in this process. Back when it started in May, I predicted the second week of August, way
Yeah.
back when. So, we're not too
Well,
far
you know,
off.
the
I
one
would
thing
say
that
by
bothers
August
me,
31st or sooner.
the one thing that bothers me about this is the games that this Board of Supervisors
Thank
are
you.
playing. These are
China
phony,
Jack.
absolutely phony Republicans. And some of them have been, ladies and gentlemen,
And
they have been
Shukri.
friends of mine.
Me too.
Steve Chukri,
Oh,
Bill
Brophy
Gates,
boy.
Hickman. No,
Begged
these
for my
guys-
endorsement.
Hickman,
Steve did.
yes.
And of
Begged
course
for
we interviewed Hickman the other
Jack. China Jack.
yeah, China Jack.
China Jack. That was when Kelly was interviewing.
He was here.
China
he was
Jack.
here in spirit.
Yeah.
We
that was
invited
actually
him
a
to
lot
the
of
show,
fun.
but
That
he
was a
didn't
lot
show
of fun.
up. So we had a proxy. We had a picture of him. And
We had a stunt double.
Kelly Townsend asked some phenomenal questions. by
She's
the way.
bright.
Senator
She's very
Townsend
And
asked
I,
the
and, I,
questions.
and I acted as Jack Sellers.
We should have had an action jaw on it. We really should have.
By the way, how did that go over on your show?
Oh, it did well. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of good comments
A
on
lot
it.
of laughs on that.
Yeah, exactly. Folks, pray for the Christians and the Americans that are stuck in Afghanistan. Go to the
Yeah.
Nazarene Fund on glenbeck.com. Donate money. We need to have these people rescued. It is an absolute atrocity what has happened to these folks.
And go to your
be-
senators and representatives and tell them you want to see this president removed from office.
Yeah, and you know,
Gone.
and one other thing, real quick, is the narrative coming out of the White House right now is we'll get back everybody who wants to come back. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to come back to
Yeah.
these United States. So it's another play. They're gonna.
It's disgusting.
Hey,
It's
Ray, we're out of
terrible.
time. We'd
Yeah.
like to thank Marnie for being here, and of
Thank
course
you,
Josh
Marnie.
and
Thank you.
Ray. Ray is like a fixture.
My
here.
pleasure.
At any rate, we'll see you Monday night. But tomorrow night, I want you to stay tuned at 7:00 for the Jay Lawrence show.
Lawrence.
We'll see you. Thanks a lot for joining us, Mr. DeSante. Thanks for running the ship tonight. We appreciate that very much, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Hi there, my fellow Americans. I'm Teddy Roosevelt Jr., and I may have lived in the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century, the American century. But when I want current news, I listen to Hub Radio Phoenix. It's just bully.